We have finally made it into the 2000s for Dream Theater. We're in the t-shirt. Um, and it's time to review their first album from the 2000s, 2002's 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. After the overwhelming critical and commercial success that Dream Theater had when they released their last album, Scenes from a Memory, uh, they decided to go in that same direction of a concept album, which is what they did here. Now, instead of making the whole album conceptual and a story, they decided just to make one side, or basically at this point in time, since it was 2002, one CD. Now, you will notice that Dream Theater have been getting a little older, and they have definitely put this kind of theme into their lyrics on this album. The whole album basically deals with very dark themes, I'd say. That even the songs that aren't part of the entire concept of the album are still conceptual in nature and deal with some heavy themes. So this album is a hard listen. I will admit it is much harder to understand as well. It does not hit you as hard as the story concept that we have with the last album, but it still does have a great, it still does have a great point to it. Not as great as the last album, but still pretty good. Not that much background surrounding this album, but there is one thing definitely to point out. Mike Portnoy was experiencing some drinking problems during this time and decided to channel that, energy after, going through some rehab into a 6-song or 6-part suite. Or is it 6 songs? I can't remember. I know that, oh man, it's 12-step suite, sorry. And it's every album from here on out that he's on has a song in this that deals with the parts of his psyche that are troubled and stuff due to this problem that he's got in his life. And I don't think he has a drinking problem anymore, but he definitely did during the recording of this album, as he passed out on stage at one point because of drumming and drinking. So, that's basically the only background. They keep Jordan Rudess from the last album. Yeah, that's really kind of it. So let's go through song by song now. Starting off with The Glass Prison, which is the first part of the 12-step suite. It's very influenced by metal. It is definitely in a more metal direction. When I first heard this song, it was one of the heaviest riffs I probably had ever heard. It's definitely something that is more on the metal side of the spectrum. The 3 parts are not really noticeable. The song is split into 3 parts: Reflection, Restoration, and Revelation. You can tell this is Portnoy's song. He's a big metal fan, and there's definitely a thrash metal aspect to this song. The lyrics are also written by him. You can tell he definitely put a lot of thought into them. The Glass Prison, basically, think about it like you can break down a glass prison, but only with another's help. You can't break out of it yourself, which is kind of, I think, the theme of the song. Jordan Rudess is awesome. You'd think with a metal song, a keyboard would be put off to the side, but no, he's pretty much there. He's pretty, into this, and I really like it. So, Glass Prison is pretty awesome. It's considered to be the hit of the album. It does have the most listens of anything on this album on Spotify, so there you go. Goes into the next song, Blind Faith, which is highly influenced by classical music, honestly, and it's also a hard theme to talk about. It's about James LaBrie not coming to terms with the whole religion part of his life. This time in his life, he was an atheist, and that's basically what the song is about, how he's really got a turbulent, 6 degrees of inner turbulence, part of his life in this, this aspect. So it's an interesting concept. The song is very long. It's almost 11 minutes, but the intro is the best part of the song. Very, very good intro. We got a classical music type intro, which also closes out the song. The song is heavy. Yeah, it starts off a little bit lighter, but it gets into the heavy parts. So, like the song before it, it's very influenced by thrash. Goes into the next song, Misunderstood, which is the only song that I really liked before I listened to this album. And it's it still holds up for me. Now, not as much as originally, because I heard the radio edit. I did not hear the full version like on this. And the full version is just a little bit too long, in my opinion. It starts off with a very nice acoustic riff and light, not really light, um, singing by Labrie, but like he's not singing like hard or anything. Like he's not yelling the vocals or anything, which he does later on in the song when they get into the metal aspect. And that was one of the weirdest things ever. It's got this really cool keyboard riff halfway through the da 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 da, and John Petrucci plays one of the strangest guitar solos I've ever heard. Now I'm not saying it's bad. I actually really like this solo, but the story behind it is that he played the original solo of this song, then reversed it just as like a joke, and thought that that sounded better than the original, so he decided to learn the notes of that reversed version, and that's what you hear in the song. So it's pretty cool, I'd say. I definitely think it's a cool thing that they did there. I'm not entirely sure what the song is about. I think I'll look that up right now. So I just listened to the song again, and yes, now I realize what it's about. It's written by John Petrucci. It is about how he does not want his fans thinking he's this superhuman, amazing man. Kind of like the whole struggle with Neil Peart, where he gets alienated when fans tell him he's like a god or something like that. That's how John Petrucci is relating to this, and he's saying, how can I feel abandoned even when the world surrounds me? If I seem superhuman, then I have been misunderstood. The lyrics are very, very good here, and you'd think the theme that is on the song would make it a little less catchy, but it does not. It's a very catchy song. The only problem I have with it is that it does go on a little too long. It goes into this weird kind of psychedelic-ish end passage with this weird kind of like screechy guitar at the end, which goes on a little too long, but it goes straight into the next song, which is The Great Debate. The Great Debate is a great song, and it's all about the whole debate of stem cell research that went on during George Bush's presidency. And I like how the song does not take a side on this argument. It presents both sides, and like basically like which side would you pick is almost what it's saying. It's a very cool song. It raises a lot of questions, and it combines audio, what's the word? Like audio samples, there we go, of the debate and people talking about it on the news and stuff like that in it. It's a very informative song, and in fact, if you were interested in this or doing like a school project or something like this, or just wanted to know more about it, this would be a great song to feature to help you do that, I think, because it's very informative, and who better than Dream Theater for a band to teach you something? So yeah, The Great Debate is an awesome song. The lyrics are very, very well written, and the instruments are also very nice too. You got quite a heavy song actually, but still, enjoyable. Not heavy like to the point where somebody that was trying to listen to this for a school project or something would hate it. Next song on the album is Disappear, which is also written by James Labrie. I'm not really sure entirely what the song is about either, but it's very mysterious. I know that it's supposed to be doing that kind of vibe. The keyboard riff on here is the best part of the song. It is probably the weakest song on the album, but it's still very enjoyable, and in fact, definitely would listen to it again. I almost kind of got like a James Bond vibe from it when I was listening to it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Disappears is interesting. It's an interesting listen. So now we move on to disc 2, which is encompassed by one song. you say, okay, that's kind of weird. Why did they put one song in there? Well, let's just say that that song is 42 minutes long. Now, originally, this entire disc was just one song, but now it is part of the Dream Theater canon that these little mini parts of the song are all split into their respective parts. So it's not officially 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, just one song anymore. It is those songs encompassing the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence disc. So basically, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, the song, is basically about all sorts of different disorders and syndromes, I guess, that, you know, kind of are turbulent, I guess is the good word to say, that lead to struggles in your life. So this is not a very happy topic. As you can tell, these songs are going to be very sad if you listen to them. They are very, very sad. I'd say probably 3 of them made me feel pretty sad. I mean, upon first listen, one of them is just absolute like heart-wrenching. So okay, so the songs are all, the song is about that, and each song is a different facet of the syndrome, or whatever the syndrome is, and then it closes up with a big passage which kind of sums all the parts up. So let's go through each part here. It starts off with an overture, which is an instrumental. It's just basically like a prelude, like you'd hear in an opera, just kind of like the overture that we saw with us, Scenes from Memory. It's very operatic and very bombastic and like classical music inspired once again. And interesting that I say that because many different classical music composers were referred to in writing this album, which is definitely where you can see the influences coming through here. So after Overture, it goes to About to Crash, which is about, I think, let's see, bipolar disorder. Yeah, that's the most well-known of all the diseases talked about here. The lyrics are very, very, they're incredible here. They definitely relate the story very well. There is another About to Crash later on in this song, which is different. So this song is about somebody watching the person with bipolar disorder, whereas the other one is about the person with bipolar disorder talking about themselves. Not too much to say about this song. It is 6 minutes long. It does encompass quite a lot of the points. It does feature the theme of 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, which was the motif was first brought upon in the overture, but it continues throughout the 9 parts, or 8 parts, sorry. But this one, it does feature quite prominently. Next song on the album is War Inside My Head, which is a pretty short part, and it is not the Suicidal Tendencies song, if you thought that's what it was. No, this song is about PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. The person probably served in Vietnam that they're talking about in the song. And it's interesting because post-traumatic stress disorder can leave a person just shell-shocked and just stop mid-sentence, which is what the song does. During the middle of one of the choruses, the song just stops and goes right into the next one, which is a very interesting musical motif that some bands have used, and it's used to very great effect here on this song. It's definitely like war inspired. You know how like Metallica have One with the machine gun drums, or Confusion with the artillery shell intro. It's like that with this song. You do have a very tremendous feeling of war when you hear this. Next part of the song is The Test That Stumped Them All, which is about schizophrenia. Now, it is the definite most shocking part of the whole song. It's got a speed metal, almost Megadeth aspect of it. Very fast riff. Apparently this is the most technical of Dream Theater songs on the album, besides Glass Prison. I can see why. I mean, I think the only reason why Glass Prison is more technical, according to musicians, is that it's 13 minutes long. This song is only about 6. Um, by the way, Portnoy wrote the lyrics for these 2 parts, Warrants on My Head and Test That Stumped Them All. And you can tell very much that these 2 and the next one after this, which I'm going to talk about, are written by Portnoy. He has a definite writing style where he's kind of aggressive, but also at the same time very hesitant. He combines both writing styles to very greatly contrast each other, which is even better considering what the song is about. So the song then shifts to Goodnight Kiss, which is probably the saddest part of the song. It's about, I'm trying to remember, postpartum depression, which I had never heard of before hearing this song, and it does relate the tale of what someone would go through with this disorder. It's basically when a mother or father loses their child. It's a very sad occurrence, and here it's brought about in detail. Kind of reminds me of, in some ways, Welcome Home Sanitarium by Metallica, but I'm not entirely sure that's a musical influence. The best part of the song, though, lyrics are great, but the best part of the song is definitely the guitar solo. It is one of the best guitar solos Petrucci ever wrote. It starts off really uplifting almost, but it's not supposed to be, I don't think. And it goes into this really heart-wrenching, almost Pink Floyd, David Gilmour-esque part, and it's very, very heart-wrenching, and it's a very, very sad song. You hear sound effects of someone crying and all that, and a baby crying, and it's very, very emotional. And it goes right into the second most emotional song on the song, Solitary Shell, which is about Asperger's syndrome or autism. And oh man, this song is very, very sad. It's about a guy with Asperger's syndrome and how he wants to be socially out there, but because of his syndrome, it's like making him retreat into his solitary shell. It is a very, very challenging song to get through for some people that probably know people with this, I would say. It's very sad, and it's very influenced by Peter Gabriel's Salisbury Hill. I was trying to remember the name. How did I forget that? But anyways, the keyboard solo on here is one of the best Jordan Rudess moments ever. It's very, very touching. And the whole song is just very, very memorable and one of the best parts of 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Goes into the About to Crash reprise, which I kind of already talked about already, and then it goes into Losing Time, which is about disassociation slash multiple personality disorder. Kind of like the schizophrenia, but different. This song is very sad too, but the fact that it's only about 2 minutes long kind of just decreases a little bit. It's probably the weakest parts of the 9 parts on this song. Then it goes into the grand finale, which sums up all the points of the album. It's got the theme, it's got a lyric that relates to each and every part of the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. It's just an absolute classic way to end this song. And it's just great, It sounds very much like the overture, and it's great to do that. And that is the entire album. It's only 6 songs. Well, if you count these last few, you got 14, but they're all classified as the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence suite. So, yeah, and is it better than Scenes from Memory? No. Unfortunately, it is not. But it has actually grown on me. I used to not like this album very much because of the length, but for me it is a very enjoyable listen. You don't really have any weak points on this album, honestly. It's just kind of name value. None of these songs are really hits per se. So definitely like this. Now, one thing I will say does bring it down a little bit. There is no real, like, instrumentation focus. With the last album, I was raving about John Mayung. Well, here he's kind of barely noticeable on some songs. Some songs he is very noticeable, like Test That Stump Them All. He's visible on that song, but on others he's kind of disappeared. Jordan Rudess has a big part on this album, but not as great as on Scenes from Memory. Labrie is actually the focus, I'd say. His singing is very, very good here. Not that it wasn't on the last albums, but it is definitely focused upon heavily. Portnoy's drumming is great as usual, but it's just not focused on, and Petrucci's guitar is focused on certain songs. So, that's what I have to say about that. So, honestly though, besides that, there's no real criticisms. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence by Dream Theater gets a 4.5 out of 5. It's a very solid listen. For being a concept album, it does its concepts very well. You'd think that there would be a challenge, and it was, probably, but no, they're executed very, very well, which is basically kind of how Dream Theater should be summed up. Concepts executed great. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope to have another one up this weekend. I probably will. I'll probably have another Dream Theater review up this weekend, so thank you for watching. Goodbye.